welcome to the Eagle Eyes Iron Show. I'm Andy Hewling, joined by Delaney Barrow, and we're here outside the Student Center ahead of the big matchup between Auburn and Alabama. Delaney, what are your thoughts on this game leading up to this huge matchup with huge college football implications for Alabama and huge implications for Auburn's season still?
I think it's going to be a really exciting game. Number 15 Auburn versus number 5 Alabama. Alabama's looking to secure their spot and convince the College Football Playoff Committee that they're inclusion over those other one-loss teams, which they would have to do if they beat Auburn handedly. And then Auburn's looking to get a 10-game win season, which has only been done 3 times under Coach Malzahn before.
Yeah, the big news coming out this week is that Tua Tagovailoa has been out for the season now with a hip fracture that he suffered against Mississippi State. So that's a big step up for Mac Jones, who will be the backup quarterback for the Tide in this game. How do you think he's going to fare in this game?
He had 2 clean and efficient starts against Arkansas and Western Carolina, but he's never played a defense like Auburn's. So I think that'll definitely rattle him, and Auburn defense will be looking to take advantage of his.
Yeah, and Auburn, like you said, is looking for a 10-win season. Do you think that's going to be big for morale to get a win against Alabama and hopefully knocking them out of the playoffs and boosting their bowl projections?
I think it is really big, and especially with all the talk about Coach Malzahn's job and that being in the air, I think that they really do need that 10-win season in order for him to feel more confident in his play.
For sure, and we'll have more talk later on in the show, but we're going to go out to the campus green space where Sam Humphrey and Kennedy Gooden are out there live right now. Sam, Kennedy, what's it like out there?
And welcome to the green space here at Auburn University, along with me, Sam Humphrey, and Kennedy Gooden, where people are now just setting up their tailgates, getting ready for the Iron Bowl. Now, Kennedy, there are 2 quarterbacks in this matchup, Mac Jones and Bo Nix. Who do you think is the better quarterback in this matchup?
Well, I definitely think that Bo Nix is the better quarterback today. He has over 2,000 yards rushing. He has 20 touchdowns total and 6 interceptions. And with that at-home advantage, I definitely think he's going to have the better today at being quarterback.
And for me, I'm going to go with the opposite, Mac Jones. He's 55 of 77 for the year. The last game against Western Carolina, he went 10 of 12, 275 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was a great tune-up game before coming up against this defense. And speaking of the Auburn defense, I mean, they faced LSU's offense, probably one of the best in the nation, and now Alabama's offense. Do you see Alabama's offense scoring more than 25 points in this game?
I definitely think it's going to be a close game, but I think what is great about Alabama's offense is that they're used to pressure, even with not having that at-home advantage. I think they're going to do okay. It's going to be a really close game and a tough game, but I don't think they're going to do too bad today.
And with Mac Jones, they may actually put in Tua Tagovailoa, the brother of Tua Tagovailoa, if Mac Jones doesn't perform up to his standards in the first half. Andy and Delaney, back to you in the studio.
Now we're going to go into the studio where Mackenzie Collins stands by to tell us
this year's matchup
between Auburn and Alabama. Mackenzie, what do you have for us?
This year's matchup between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers is the 84th time these 2 SEC teams will meet on the gridiron. Alabama leads the series 46-36-1 as Auburn has only won 3 times over the past decade. This game usually decides who will play in the SEC championship and ultimate play in the college football playoffs. The 2 teams have met for 70 straight years, going all the way back to Legion Field in Birmingham, Alabama in 1948. When the matchup is played at Jordan-Hare Stadium, Auburn leads 16-9 with their most recent win in 2017. Now let's take a look back at the most notable games throughout the years. The Tigers took the first win of the series back in 1893 with a score of 32-22 in Birmingham, Alabama. The Iron Bowl 1948 was the first time the teams met in over 40 years due to suspension. Alabama shut out Auburn 55-0 in Legion Field that day, which remains the largest victory margin in series history. The first live broadcast was in 1964, when Joe Namath led his Alabama team to a 21-14 win. In 1981, Alabama coach Bear Bryant celebrated his 315th win with the 28-17 victory, making him the most winningest coach in the FBS at the time. This game added to Alabama's longest win streak over Auburn at 9 games. The following year, Heisman winner Bo Jackson jumped over the Tide's defensive front with 2 minutes left in the game to give his team a go-ahead score to seal the game 23-22. Alabama's 9-game winning streak ended, as well as Bear Bryant's coaching career, as he retired after the Tide's 1982 season. The first Iron Bowl to be played in Jordan-Hare Stadium was back in 1989 when Auburn defeated Alabama 30-20. A decade later, the Crimson Tide beat Auburn 28-17 in Jordan-Hare for the first time ever. In 2007, Nick Saban coached in his first ever Iron Bowl, and it didn't go exactly as planned. The Tigers ended up beating the Tide 17-10 at home, adding to their 6-year win streak. A year later, this streak was snapped as Auburn was shut out against Alabama 36-0 in Coach Tommy Tuberville's last game as Auburn head coach. The 2010 Iron Bowl was remembered by both Auburn and Alabama fans. Cam Newton led his team to a 28-27 victory after being down 24-0 at half. The Tigers went on to win the BCS National Championship against Oregon and go 14-0 on the year. However, the game remembered by the entire nation was the 2013 Iron Bowl. The number 1 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide met the 4th ranked Auburn Tigers in Jordan-Hare Stadium for a chance at the conference title and championship opportunity. With 1 second left and the teams tied 28-28, Alabama kicker Cade Foster attempted a 57-yard field goal. The kick fell short and Auburn quarterback Chris Davis caught the ball at the back of the end zone and ran it back 109 yards. This game would go on to be known as the Kick 6 game, also winning 2 ESPYs awards. The Tigers' most recent win came in 2017 as they held off number 1 ranked Alabama in Jordan-Hare. Knocking off 2 number 1 ranked teams in 2 weeks, Tigers ended up losing the conference title rematch to the Georgia Bulldogs in Atlanta. Today, the Tigers look to keep the Tide out of playoff contention as LSU and Georgia, both in the top 4, will play in Atlanta on December 7th. Reporting from the Eagle Eye Studio, I'm Mackenzie Collins.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
I was living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
You can achieve a lot using your imagination. I mean, I don't like to brag, but... Wait, who's that? And why is she all over these achievement awards? But with STEM, the sky's the limit. Shaboom! Use STEM to envision... Okay, I'm seeing it. Yeah. Invent...
Got any ideas?
I've got a few, actually. And create a better world.
Told you she's super smart.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
Welcome back to the Iron Bowl preview show. I'm Andy Hewling with Delaney Barrow, and this week Eagle Eye got to catch up with the mayor of Auburn, Ron Anders, as he gave his take on the game as well as the atmosphere and everything that is involved with the city of Auburn.
Well, look, there's a lot of ways you can look at what the Iron Bowl means to the community of Auburn. It's certainly a source of pride and excitement to bring what year in and year out is maybe America's greatest college football game to our community, to our campus, and so it's just a great source of pride to think that much activity, that much publicity is coming to our community, and normally national television and reporting follows that, and so it just brings a lot of excitement and anticipation to Auburn. We talk about game day weekends meaning $6 and $7 million to the city of Auburn. I would have to believe that the Iron Bowl means more than that because there's just more going on. It's just people maybe stay an extra night, they maybe buy an extra meal. They just do a little bit more because it is the Iron Bowl, because they are around the opponent usually is folks that they have friends that are Alabama fans, and so there's a lot of fellowship going on that you don't normally see when other opponents come to town, and it's a tremendous economic and source of civic pride to host the economic opportunity and source of civic pride to host the Iron Bowl.
Let's go back out to the campus green as Sam Humphrey has some fans who've shown up early to tailgate at the campus green.
All right, so I have 2 Auburn fans with me today. So the first question I want to ask you guys is, how many Iron Bowls have y'all been to?
I've been to 4 Iron Bowls, and we've won every single time I've been here, so War Eagle.
I've been to about, I think, 17, 18, so yeah, hopefully this will be a win.
So what are y'all's game day predictions with Auburn having the at-home advantage, but still playing against a good Alabama team? What do y'all think is going to happen today?
I think Auburn's going to come out and have a well-planned game, and I think we're going to win by a touchdown.
Defensive touchdown, big thing by the defense. We win by 10.
All right.
Let's talk about Alabama as they're coming into Auburn now, ranked 5th in the country, looking to get back in the college football playoff race. And it seems that the injury to Tua Tagovailoa will be a big issue. A lot of the Alabama former alumni and even Coach Saban trust in Mac Jones' ability. What do you think what is he going to be thinking coming into an environment like this?
I think that the environment will definitely prove to be an obstacle for him, but at the same time, he's going to be surrounded by talented star running backs and wide receivers. Their offense is very multidimensional, so I don't think that the offense will slow down at all just because he hasn't had as much experience this season.
Well, Jones also has a lot of weapons to use, especially his running back Najee Harris, who's had an incredible season this year. Harris is not a guy that you can just tackle. You have to absolutely grab him and put him on the ground, because if you try to hit him, he's just going to bounce straight off. He's that powerful. What do you think Harris's impact will be for the Tide?
He definitely has been a star player this season, and he only needs 58 more yards to reach a 1,000-yard season. And on top of that, he's scored both a passing and a rushing touchdown in the last 3 games, and he's the first SEC player in 20 years to do that. So his talent is definitely going to prove a challenge for the Tigers today.
And then the receivers as well. You've got 4 guys who are probably going in the first or second rounds as wide receiver picks in the NFL. Do you think Auburn's secondary is going to have to handle this team? Because Mac Jones, all he has to do is get it to him, because Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, just to name a few of them, they can make plays on their own. They don't need the play of Mac Jones. As long as he gets it to them, they can make an impact. How do you think Auburn's going to have to handle that?
I think that it'll be tough for them because Alabama does have a strong rushing game and they do have a strong passing game. And we've been talking about the stat how Auburn hasn't allowed more than 24 points this season, but Alabama has scored more than 24 points every game. So I think that'll definitely be a close matchup.
For sure. It's going to be a big test for Auburn as Alabama comes in. Now we're going to go back into the studio as the Plainsman, Auburn's print newspaper, has a preview for us on the big game.
Hello everybody, welcome back into the Eagle Eye News TV station. My name is Nathan King, sports editor for the Auburn Plainsman, Auburn student newspaper. And to my right is sports writer Harrison Tarr, one of our talented young writers over there at the Plainsman. Harrison, how are you doing today, man?
Well, thank you for the words of praise.
Not a problem, not a problem. So we're going to be breaking down a really pivotal part of this Iron Bowl matchup, and that is a Tua Tagovailoa-less Alabama offense. Obviously, Tua goes down with that really devastating hip injury. Yeah, in the Mississippi State game. It'll be Mac Jones at quarterback, and he's a 5-star Florida product. I believe he's a true sophomore, and you were saying he's played in 9 of 10 games this season.
He's actually played in 9 of their 10 games this season. He's taken at least 1 snap and attempted at least 1 pass. There's only been 1 game where he's not completed a pass, actually. That was against Southern Miss, oddly enough.
Yeah.
Mac Jones is going to be like a center part of the offense, and if you ask me, it's going to be really interesting to see, I think, not who plays better, him or Bo Nix, who plays more average. I don't think they're going to have to ask either quarterback to be elite because both teams have I would say, qualified running game. But it's going to be difficult for both teams to run the ball against either defense. So if you want to jump into that, go right ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And Auburn's run defense has been a lot more consistent than Alabama's this year, but Alabama's probably got the more talent. I mean, definitely got the more talented guy. In Najee Harris, we were talking about it off the air that Harris is a junior. He's averaging under 100 rushing yards per game. But in an NFL offense like Alabama's, like at what LSU does too.
NFL-esque.
NFL-esque, yeah. They got NFL guys on the staff. Right. These are NFL quarterbacks. You don't need to run the ball for 100 yards. So that average is a little skewed, and they've had to rely on him a little more. What have you kind of seen out of Najee Harris, and what does Auburn's defense have to do to slow him down?
Also, you just said that he's rushing for an average of south of 100. It's barely south of 100 yards a game. It's 97.5, 97.6. So it's not like he's not putting up numbers every game. And they're not asking him to. He's not quite, as you spoke before, like you said, off the air, he's not quite as shifty as DeAndre Swift, as like we saw in the Georgia game 2 weeks ago. But he is equally, if not more talented. He can tear up a defense if a hole is presented, if his offensive line can't hold. And Alabama's offensive line has been exceptional this year. So I think that if he can get the ball rolling, good for him, but it's going to be difficult against a very, very talented Auburn defense.
Yeah, and you touched on it there. This is an Auburn defense that a lot of people argue is the best since 2004. Some people, if they're saying it's better than that group, the 1988 group is one that's really touched on. They're elite at every level, in my opinion. A lot of people have had some questions about this Auburn secondary, but through some research, they're ninth in the country in yards per completion. That basically equates to how well they tackle and how well they can keep the lid on. I mean, I can kind of count on one hand the big plays that they've allowed this season, but then there's no questions up there with the defensive front. Harrison, I'll ask you, is Derek Brown the best Auburn defensive player you've seen since Nick Fairley, and what do you think he and Marlon have done this season to really turn it up to this level that they've just been a menace, no matter what offensive line they're playing?
You had to go as far as Nick Fairley. That is difficult. I think so. I think him, and I think you can throw Marlon Davidson in the same conversation. Those two, as they spoke earlier this year, it's really fun to watch them play, because if one gets double teamed, or like if one gets moved to the other side, if Derek gets moved, Marlon's going to make a play. If Marlon gets moved, Derek's going to make a play. And you would think at some point the opposing offenses would figure out how to game plan for them, but it just doesn't seem to work.
Yeah.
Derek Brown is, like as you said, a menace. There's no other word for it. In my opinion, probably going to be a top 5 draft pick, definitely a top 10. I think we can agree on that. And I think that they've had the biggest impact. Probably, yeah, I'll agree, since Nick Fairley.
And then, like Harrison touched on, there's been a lot of different things offenses have schemed to try to make work of Derek Brown, to try to stall out Marlon Davidson. It just really hasn't worked. We've seen Derek Brown take on double teams. We've seen him sack quarterbacks by
take them on and win.
Yeah, throwing their own offensive linemen into them. But as Harrison touched on before, this is a great Alabama offensive line. It doesn't matter who's back there at quarterback. They're going to protect really well, and that gets it down to really the crux of this offense versus defense, and that's that Mac Jones, all he has to do is get the ball to his playmakers in space, because this is a top 2, top 3 receiving core in the country. Some people would argue it's the best.
A lot of people would argue. If you look around, it's NFL talent from side to side.
Yeah.
So it's hard to deny that. And I think you're absolutely right. Mac Jones doesn't even have to necessarily be a hero. He just has to complete the routine passes. I think that could be enough in the end game. I don't think he's even going to have to be asked to make any difficult passes that I would expect out of Tua. But I think that his receiving core, like as you said, is so talented that they will make up for the drop-off in experience, not necessarily even talent level in quarterback.
Yeah, and Auburn secondary's already played a big challenge this year. LSU, they've got, some people will go between those receivers, and Alabama's some of the best in the country. Some think Jamar Chase from LSU is the best receiver in the country, and they had held LSU to its worst game of the season. Joe Burrow put up numbers, but really that secondary was able to lock down, especially in the second half. Now, the question is how they can come home and perform. They played really well against Jake Fromm in Georgia. He had that 151-yard touchdown that was a coverage bust with the safeties. And other than that, there was nothing through the air for him.
The big touchdown is what inflated his stats. If you look at the stat line, if you take that away, it doesn't pass for 100 yards.
No, not even close. Yeah.
Impressive, because as you spoke earlier, a lot of people were trying to pin the blame on that Auburn secondary. And we talked a little bit before we got on the air about Noah Igbenogany, his progression throughout the year. Shockingly, people have not been picking on Igbenogany like I would have anticipated they would after the Florida game. And this secondary is much better than a lot of people think. So that could play a factor in stopping Mac Jones as well, if you ask me. But it's going to be the battle up front.
Yeah, the overall number I think in this game is 24. Auburn hasn't allowed 24 or more points this season against anybody, and this is one of the best offenses they're going to play without its best player. Certainly going to be a matchup to watch today inside Jordan-Hare Stadium at 2:30 p.m. It's the 83rd Iron Bowl. Thank you for joining us. For my colleague over here, Harrison Tarr, I'm Nathan King signing off from the Eagle Eye TV news station.
My parents weren't fluent in English, so in school, I had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Hey, Kevin, you thinking about retirement?
I'd love to, but I'm pretty busy with all this.
Yeah. Hey, let's meet our retirement coach, Avo. A is for taking action.
Not anxiety?
No, Kevin, you're gonna be fine.
You sing?
Barely. V is for variety.
And you dance?
Sort of. Come on. O is for optimize your savings.
Let Avo lead the way.
Visit aceyourretirement.org today.
Nice.
Baby,
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My parents weren't fluent in English, so in school, I had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Hey, Kevin, you thinking about retirement?
I'd love to, but I'm pretty busy with all this.
Yeah. Hey, let's meet our retirement coach, Avo. A is for taking action.
Not anxiety?
No, Kevin, you're gonna be fine.
You sing?
Barely. V is for variety.
And you dance?
Sort of. Come on. O is for optimize your savings.
Let Avo lead the way.
Visit aceyourretirement.org today.
Nice.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My parents weren't fluent in English, so in school, I had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Hey, Kevin, you thinking about retirement?
I'd love to, but I'm pretty busy with all this.
Yeah. Hey, let's meet our retirement coach, Avo. A is for taking action.
Not anxiety?
No, Kevin, you're gonna be fine.
You sing?
Barely. V is for variety.
And you dance?
Sort of. Come on. O is for optimize your savings.
Let Avo lead the way.
Visit aceyourretirement.org today.
Nice.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Eagle Eye's Iron Bowl preview. My name is Hayden Desmond, and I'm going to break down a few key plays and tell you how I think both Alabama and Auburn can benefit from this matchup. Let's take. So this first play, we've got Mac Jones' first pass against Arkansas. He goes out to a screen to Jerry Jeudy on the left side. Now here's the thing about Mac Jones. Obviously this is his first time going to be playing in Jordan-Hare. I think the Alabama OC and the staff really need to get these small plays in so he can just get comfortable. And when you have these dynamic receivers like Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and Henry Ruggs, it's really not hard. Now on this play, it's kind of interesting. He gets a high snap and rolls out to his right, goes across body to the left to the tight end. Now I understand that it's Arkansas' best defense in the SEC, but at the same time, when Mac Jones is able to roll out and stay calm when he has these high snaps and be able to find his open man and sort of stay calm, that's one thing that Saban likes and is going to be able to execute at all. Now, on this play, simple screen to Devontae Smith down the right side. That's all you really need. You got 5 to 6 yards, especially in this Alabama offense. But this is what I want to see from the Auburn defense. Goal line stands, energy. If Auburn does all of this and they do it well, that's all we're really going to need to see in order for Auburn to come out with the win on top. Alabama, obviously number 5 team in the country. This is going to be a big game coming out. But that's my breakdown for these highlights. I'm going to throw it back out to Andy.
Thank you, Hayden. Now we're going to talk Auburn. So Auburn's coming into this game sitting at 8-3, but this is always a big game for them. The Iron Bowl is a huge test. So what can Auburn do to make Alabama unnervy in this game and really just stifle their defense and also make Mac Jones feel the pressure?
Offensively, Bo Nix will be the key to this game. He's a dual threat quarterback. He has multiple rushing TDs this season. He only needs 50 more yards to freshman passing record. So I think look for a standout game from him, and at the same time, as shown in the UGA game, with the 2-minute offense, he played really well, really efficiently. The Auburn offense overall as a whole that proved really successful. So I think that that'll be a strong key to this game.
And the defense, obviously, all year we've been talking about it. They've been the stellar group in the team. What do they have to do to just continue this strong play and to keep Mac Jones frustrated and just really stifle his passing in this game?
I think that they'll just be looking for those sacks, with that strong defensive line, Marlon Davidson, Derek Brown, Jeremiah Denson, all them. Between Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, they have 7 out of the 11 possible SEC honors for Defensive Lineman of the Week, and I know that they're in a competition for that, so that's going to be tough today.
Derek Brown will be very motivated to tie up his fellow defensive lineman, Marlon Davidson, as he will have his last game in front of the Auburn, which will be really sad because these guys have had such a great career. It's been unreal to watch them play at Auburn. So now let's go into the studio one more time as the Weagle rating 1.1 will have a preview for us.
Thanks, Andy and Delaney. I'm Jack Hart of WEGL Sports, and joining me today is Chris Bassinger and Brendan McLaughlin. We're here to break down the offensive side of the ball for Auburn in this upcoming Iron Bowl. Chris, what are your initial thoughts about Auburn on the offensive side of the ball here for today's game?
Well, Jack, rushing is going to be key for the Auburn offense. Auburn averages about 245 yards in games where they have won, and over the season have averaged about 205 yards. So that 40 yards is going to be crucial to the Auburn rushing game. Alabama, as a comparison, only allows an average of 137 yards per game. So if Auburn's going to have a chance at winning, they need to dominate on the rushing game with running backs DJ Williams and Boobie Whitlow really coming into the side.
Yeah, to add to that, Chris, I think it's going to be huge for Auburn in this game is time possession, which was going to be a big part, is the run game, because if Auburn's able to sustain drives and get 10-plus play drives, that will be able to keep a strong Alabama offense, I expect, with Mac Jones. So I think a running game will be huge in this game as well.
Absolutely, and I think that all starts with the running game as far as opening up with that offensive line play, and that definitely needs to show out in this Iron Bowl if Auburn wants to get things going on the ground. They got to be making those big holes, and Boobie has to use that good vision of his to find those creases and break out those big runs that keep this Auburn offense going, because you can't sustain drives if you're only getting 1 or 2 yards of play.
Yeah, and bouncing off that, Auburn's also going to have to recover after that blow against the Georgia game, at the Georgia game, for more so in the passing sense. See, Alabama averages allowing 191 passing yards per game, but LSU had a record 393 passing yards against them. Auburn, for a comparison, has about 209 passing yards per game. So as long as Auburn can get more passing yards than that 191, I think they have a good shot from a passing perspective to win.
And the thing about Bo Nix, he's been very smart in the passing of the football. He has only a few interceptions all season. He's done a good job protecting the ball. I think it's going to be a huge gain, obviously, the ball to Seth Williams. He had 13 catches in the last game against Georgia. Hit him a lot on those slant routes. I think it'd just be big for Bo Nix just get this, distribute the ball besides Seth Williams to get to also Anthony Schwartz possibly on some big plays.
Absolutely, and we saw that really a lot there in the second half of that Georgia game where Auburn really opened up the passing games, a lot of slant routes, a lot of passing between the numbers, which it seemed that Georgia just could not defend. And this Alabama defense is a bit weaker than that Georgia defense as far as the secondary. So I think that passing between the numbers and getting those toe step passes on the sidelines is going to be what's going to get Auburn those chunk plays they need to sustain a drive, like Brendan said earlier in the segment.
Yeah, and Seth Williams and Schwartz are going to be huge in this game, of course, receiving more passes than anyone else from this Auburn offense. I think Schwartz is going to be huge. If Bo Nix can connect with Anthony Schwartz, he's going to allow that long pass game to really open up, because Schwartz is really good at catching the ball short and then running with it. He's one of the fastest people in college football, and I think just getting the ball to him will allow for this Auburn offense to really develop and open up a lot of playmaking opportunities.
Yeah, Schwartz is a lot faster than most linebackers, so if you can hit him in a slant underneath the secondary, he can be out of the secondary in an instant. So hitting Schwartz in speed, in stride, which Bo Nix has shown that he's been able to do, is going to be key if Auburn wants to establish a passing game with room to work there.
And another thing to add in this game is how we saw Auburn against Georgia. The offense really struggled for 3 quarters and then came alive in the 4th quarter. And what I really thought in that second touchdown drive they had, where I thought it was vintage Gus Malzahn offense, where it was a big play to start off the drive and it was complete up-tempo after that. And Auburn did a great job of not doing any substitutes. They didn't allow the defense to substitute. They kept up the tempo. So I think if Auburn wants to win this game against Alabama, I think the offense has to get off to a big start early and not have to wait till the fourth quarter to get going.
Yeah, let's talk about the tempo of this Auburn offense. It's very clear that Gus Malzahn wants to keep the tempo up. We saw that with the timeout call at the end of the second quarter there in the Georgia game. Gus Malzahn wants the ball as much as possible. He's going to elect to receive if he wins the toss, and he's going to want to call as many timeouts as possible to get the ball back in his offense's hands. How far does this confidence level go to the tempo of the team and trying to score at every available opportunity?
Yeah, I think Auburn's going to need to really try on every single attempt, even if they're deep in their own half at the beginning of every single drive. I think they really need to go for everything. We saw in the game against Georgia that they were having a tough time in those first 3 quarters, but really kicked it into gear into that fourth quarter. They need that spark at the beginning, and they just didn't have it at the beginning of that Georgia game. But I think if Bo can connect to the passers, open up the rushing game early, and really hammer in how well DJ Williams and Bowie Whitlow can rush against this weaker Alabama defense, I think that'll allow Auburn to score early and score often.
And I think if Auburn obviously is able to score early, and then Auburn's defense, one of the best in the country, I think it'll really help the defense out and not have to put them in a hole where they have to shut down Alabama every drive because the offense is struggling. But if the Auburn offense is able to get going, I think that really helps the defense out and be a little more aggressive against Alabama.
Thanks, Weagle. Now I'm joined by Caroline Grace of OU TV Sports, as she's all the way from Oklahoma to cover the Iron Bowl. But you have a lot of history since you're from Alabama. Talk about you were actually in an algebra class with Bo Nix when you were cool. So talk about that.
Yeah, that's actually really funny when people start talking about Bo, because me and like my whole friend group, my high school's like, what? I can't believe this kid's actually playing on a stage this big. So yeah, sophomore year of high school, he was a freshman. Together, we got on everyone's nerves because we asked so many questions, but I can tell you this kid works hard, he plays hard, he's a good kid, so.
Yeah, for sure. So talk about your job at OU TV Sports. What do you do there?
Yeah, so OU actually has their own broadcast news channel, and it's on Cox Channel 124, so it's really only found in Oklahoma. But we do a student-led broadcast at 4:30 to 5 every single day, and then on Saturdays we have a game day show like this called Game Day, 2-hour show, mock college game day like everyone else in the country. But so that's, and we do that every Saturday. We actually don't have a show this weekend because of Thanksgiving, and Bedlam's actually away this year, so we took a little break to spend time with our families.
Awesome. Well, this game is obviously huge to college football because Alabama stands in the way of a lot of teams, including your Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah.
Talk about what this means not only to the state of Alabama, but to college football.
You know, I try to tell everyone in Oklahoma how big of a deal this is. There's nothing like it. You can't just win or lose on about your business and return back to your home state. You know, you're stuck with these people all year long. And I think Auburn struggling this year is looking for that upset win, because let's be honest, if Auburn beats Alabama, does the rest of the season actually matter? But, you know, teams like Oklahoma, teams like Utah really need Auburn to win this game. So I'll be pulling for them, but I don't know if it's going to be enough.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into the game a little bit. So what are your initial reactions? Obviously, we've talked a lot about Tua being hurt and how Mac Jones is going to react to this big environment behind us here at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Like, how is Alabama going to have to win this game?
You know, and I'll go back to kind of what Gus Malzahn said this summer about his offense, but for Nick Saban, you know, they're going to have to really focus on being good around their quarterback. I think, you know, Alabama has a backup for the backup for the backup. So do I think Mac Jones is good? Yes, but he's never played in an environment like this, and that's my number one question. But considering that Alabama's offense is as aggressive as this is going to be the toughest defense they've ever faced, they're going to pull it out.
Okay, so you said they're going to pull out. What's your score prediction?
I've got 21-17 Alabama, and you know, I'm kind of using a little bit of reverse psychology right now. Every time I've picked Auburn, it hasn't gone in my favor, so I'm really hoping this is the day.
Okay, well, 21-17 Alabama it is. Well, that's going to send us into commercial break. Caroline, thank you for joining us, and we'll go to and we'll be back with more on the Iron Bowl Preview Show.
Touchdown! Did you see that? Whoa, we scored? Yeah, we scored. We're going to the playoffs. I can't believe I missed that. Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone. I should take your phone away. No. I'll call for a ride. Wait, why does my face look like that?
When I was growing up, my mom was extremely tidy. We were trained to put things back where we got them from. One day, when I walked into my mom's house, I felt like I walked to someone else's house. There was stuff everywhere, and just growing up the way I grew up and to see this transition was very alarming.
When Sean talked to me, it was a wake-up call, and that's when I went to the doctor.
Put the keys down, Kevin. But I'm gonna drive home. There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
I've taken 25 selfies in the last 10 minutes.
26.
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
Welcome back to the Iron Bowl Preview Show. Go into our studio right now as Mary Lee Oliver will have a preview of the game, as she'll talk about the coaches involved in both sides of this Iron Bowl, and as well as her prediction for this afternoon's football game.
Today is the day. The state of Alabama has been waiting for this day since the Zeros hit the clock last year. That's right, it's the Iron Bowl. Auburn takes on the 5th-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide here on the Plains at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Coming off a tough loss to Georgia in a rebuilding game against Samford, Auburn is looking to regain rhythm with freshman quarterback Bo Nix and the criticized offense. While the Auburn offense has been unable to click for the past few games, the story has been the relentless defense. Auburn's defense continues to play lights out under defensive coordinator Kevin Steele. Steele joined the Auburn coaching staff before the 2016 season and has given the Tigers some of the most explosive defensive players the program has ever seen. The big guys for the Tigers, Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, share 6 SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week honors. They had a combined 11 tackles and 2 for a loss 2 weeks ago against Georgia. With the Auburn defense in full, Steele has a tough coaching matchup with Alabama head coach Nick Saban and offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian. Sarkisian joined the Alabama coaching staff just before the beginning of this season. With the season-ending injury to Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa last week against Mississippi State, the Auburn defense will face off with second-string quarterback Mac Jones. Jones played well in his time as the starter coming in during the season, especially in games like Tennessee, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. His season stats aren't bad for a backup. He's playing well in the offense, but it seems that this offense is set up to the point where he can succeed, and that credit goes to Steve Sarkisian in his second year on Coach Saban's staff, with his first being in 2016 serving as the quarterback coach, analyst, and offensive coordinator in the national championship game after the departure of Lane Kiffin with quarterback Jalen Hurts. With that being said, here's how I see this game playing out. I think Auburn's defense will be able to shut down inexperienced Jones. Although he is inexperienced, Alabama's receivers have been explosive this season, so the Auburn defense will need to focus on midfield pass coverage. With Alabama missing a few key starters on the defensive end, I believe Boobie Whitlow and Anthony Schwartz will be able to have a big game running the ball. With that being said, Nix and his receivers will have to regain chemistry and be able to connect for passes over the middle. I think Alabama will come out strong and score first, but the Auburn defense will be able to shut them down with a final score of Auburn 24, Alabama 21. That's my prediction for this year's Iron Bowl. My name is Mary Lee Oliver with Eagle Eye TV. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Mary Lee. And now we're actually going to go back into the studio as Hayden Desmond sits with Harrison Tarr of the Plainsman, who was just on. They're going to give their take on the game as well as their predictions for the Iron Bowl.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Hayden Desmond, joined by my good friend Harrison Tarr from the Plainsman across the hall, and we are going to talk Iron Bowl. Harrison, straight up, let's jump into it. What do you think?
Well, thanks for having me on, first off. I appreciate it. So I jumped right into the Iron Bowl. I'm going to give you the number right.
All right.
That's all right. First off, let's be an Alabama, and they like them a lot. 65.6% chance to win this game, according to the FPI. The spread has Bama at a 3-point favorite, so the over-under line is also 49. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Probably take the under today.
Take the under?
It's going to be a lot lower scoring than you think. Do you want to jump into the impact players, or do you want to touch on that a little bit first?
I'm going to touch on that a little bit.
Right
Obviously, if we're going to talk about the numbers, I'm going to take the over. I like both of these offenses to score a lot of points, but I will say, like he said, it's not going to be as high scoring as you think. Bama's scoring 60 points a game. Is LSU, if you really want to compare. Not as video game-like, especially with Mac Jones in there at quarterback, but I think this Auburn defense is the best in the country. The players will tell you that too. So I see Alabama scoring, but just not scoring as much. Give me your impact players.
Impact players. Okay, first off, I'm going to touch on, you said one of the best defenses in the country. If not the best, definitely one of the best. I think all the experts will agree the stats are a little inflated because of the strength of schedule. But impact players, obviously going to talk about Derek Brown on the defensive side of the ball for Auburn. I actually didn't put that one down on my notes. I just wanted to mention that he's now hungry for that defensive lineman of the week from the SEC to catch up with Marlon Davis. One with Marlon Davidson, so there's a decent chance that he has a big time. Don't tell me that rivalry has nothing to do with how they play in the game. 100%. It definitely does. For Alabama, impact players, Najee Harris, it's a given. He's averaging 6 yards a carry, which, in case you guys did not know, that's good.
That's a lot.
That is a lot of yards. And he's just south of 100 yards a game, right at 97.5 in that ball. He doesn't have to do a lot. He has to do enough. The defense is going to be impenetrable, per usual. But that offensive line is also ridiculous. So he just has to do enough to set up Mac Jones, who I'm going to go into my next impact player, also Mac Jones, to be able to pass the ball. And he's got enough talent on wherever he looks for any of his checkdowns. Mac Jones, you don't have to do too much. If you're Mac Jones, you just need to complete the ball. The Nick Saban offense is sometimes a lot of people call it a gimmick offense. You can plug anyone in there, and they can have success with the strength of their offensive line. So those are my Alabama impact players. You want to talk about your Alabama impact players?
I'm just going to jump into it. Yeah. Obviously, like he said, I have Najee Harris. Najee's at almost 1,000 yards, which will be Bama's first one in a while. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to take Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs has been a standout corner at Alabama. Brother of Vikings wide receiver, so there's a little bit of a sibling rivalry there with wide receiver and CB. He's got 36 total tackles on the year, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and a touchdown. I think if he can get in there, I really am excited to watch Trayvon Diggs and Seth Williams on the outside. And then, like you said, Najee Harris. But let's jump into Auburn. Who do you have?
My first impact player is Noah Igbenogany. That's a name you're not going to hear a lot in terms of like draft stock. Known pretty well in the Auburn secondary because he's obviously a starter.
And kick return.
And a lot of kick return. Don't commit PIs if you are Noah Igbenogany. That's been a problem with him in big games this year. And if Mac Jones discovers early on that he can pick on Noah Igbenogany and that he will at least get a free 15 even if he doesn't complete the pass, that could become not necessarily a positive impact player if you're an Auburn fan, but a positive impact player if you're a Bama fan.
Right.
So do not commit PIs. You cannot be committing. And defensive holding has been a problem all year as well.
Yeah.
Also, Bo Nix, that's a given. I feel like that's a gimmick response. But don't try to be the hero today, but also try to be the hero today. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
There's a good chance that if he can get the run game established enough, he'll be able to find Seth Williams, and I would say other receivers, but it's usually just Seth Williams. He doesn't need to try to put the team on his back today, but he may have to if it gets in dire straits, as in the Georgia game, just like that. Bo Nix he's only completing 57.6% of his passes this year, and that's on 321 attempts. So there is a sample, and he's going to have to do better than that this game if he's going to beat number 5 team in the country.
I agree. For Auburn, my impact players, I'm going to go sort of smaller. Obviously, Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson, Nick Coe, Tyron Truesdale on the defense, but I'm going to take one guy on the defense that you might not think about all the time is Christian Tutt. Obviously, the DB, and he's also the punt return. I think that if we can get a lot of yards in the special teams game, whether it be on punt returns or kickoffs, that's going to be one thing that is really up. Because if Bo doesn't have to go as far, then it's going to be better for the offense in general. Now, moving to offense, one guy that I really like, and we saw a little bit of in the Sanford game, doesn't have a lot of stats this season, but I really want to see Gus put him in, especially for this big game. Wide receiver Shedrick Jackson. Shedrick Jackson, it's not impressive at all. I'm not going to lie. He's got 4 catches for 46 yards. No scores yet, but the guy can ball. The guy can run. He runs great crisp routes. He's a good deep ball. He can track the ball whenever Bo throws it up. So I think if Shedrick Jackson can take some of the pressure off of a guy like Seth Williams or Anthony Schwartz, that's one thing that we're going to look at.
And if you're an Auburn fan, you want to see Harold Joyner get the ball more.
100%.
More touches.
DJ Williams.
Williams.
Now, one thing I will ask, do you think Mac Jones is sort of Roy-esque quarterback, where in a sense that you don't have to win the game, but you don't have to lose it?
Absolutely, and that's actually it's resemble each other. It's not going to, the weight's not going to fall on him. It won't. It's going to be who's going to get outplayed, but I think who's going to get outcoached. The Iron Bowl is traditionally a just run the ball, ground and pound, kind of just a slugfest.
Yeah.
And it's going to be who can outlast whoever. And if Mac Jones keeps himself out of trouble, doesn't throw more than he can even throw an interception in this game, and probably still be fine.
Yeah.
Unlikely to happen. Auburn doesn't turn the ball over.
Right.
Doesn't force turnovers. but he just has to do what he's asked to do, nothing more.
Give me your pick.
I have the final score of the game today. It's going to be 23-20. The Tigers are going to the top. I've got Auburn with 2 touchdowns on the ground. Anders Carlson's going to go 2 for 3 for field goals. He's going to miss one. He'll miss one early, and people will be doubting, but then he'll come back. That's my take. Alabama's going to put up 20 points. So 23-20, like I said. They're going to score 3 touchdowns all through the air, and they're going to miss an extra point. That's going to happen. Alabama has problems kicking in big games on chip shots.
Yeah.
So what about you, Hayden?
So I'm taking the Tigers 31-24, and I'm going to tell you how that scoring is going to break down. I think Auburn's going to have 2 on the ground. I think one's going to come from Booby, and I think one's going to come from Cam Martin. Actually, no, scratch that. Cam Martin's not going to score. I think Bo's going to get a run in from the 5. I'm going to have one through the air, probably to Seth Williams. And then I think the defense is going to come up and they're going to score, whether it be a Derek Brown scoop and run. He'll get there almost like he did against Florida. He'll get there this time. Or it could be,
Marlon won't let him
if
forget
not,
about
Marlon
it.
won't let him forget about it. Or it'll be a pick. So I think Auburn, and I think Anders Carlson is going to go 1 for 2 on field goals. I think he's going to miss one. It's Iron Bowl. All the players are nervous. So we'll see how that goes with it. I think Bama, like I said, 24. I think 3 touchdowns through the air to probably 2 to Judy and 1 to, I'm going to go Waddle.
At least 2 to Judy.
Yeah. And then, I think I can see the Bama kickers missing. I don't see them missing extra points, but I can see them missing a couple, costing them in the end.
Hayden, I'm going to go script for a second, if that's okay. Is there a world where DJ Williams gets the same amount of touches as Booby Whitlow this game?
100%.
Is there?
Yeah. I think Booby's still sort of recovering from that knee surgery a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely.
So I think DJ Williams, and we saw him do it against LSU. This is a guy that can run the ball hard, and he almost looks like a mini Booby.
Yeah.
He's a little bit bigger.
With a little bit more.
Right. So how do you think this game sort of affects the college football playoff?
This is going to have a huge impact, and bear with me for just a second. I'm going to give the my full picture here.
Okay.
As of right now, my college football playoff has got LSU, Ohio State, not Oklahoma, Clemson, and then this game's going to have a lot of implications. Alabama has to win if they're going to get the nod that they got to get in, and when they eventually did win the national title without winning the SEC. But they're going to have to win convincingly today, and then they're going to have to pray that LSU beats UGA. Because as of right now, UGA is in my 4. I think that even if UGA loses close to LSU, they could be our first 2-loss team in.
Okay.
Unless there's a fluke and a very convincing Oklahoma team wins the Big 12, as you were speaking of before we went on air. But there's also, there's a full slate of games to play today.
Yep.
UGA's got to win today, and a little bit out of the blue, UGA's 28.5-point favorites over Georgia Tech today. Give me the Jackets as well. I'm taking the Jackets.
I'm going to get into my playoff. We have very similar playoffs. The first 3 are the same. I think LSU beats UGA and they take the top spot because I think they beat them more convincingly than Ohio State beating. I think Minnesota's going to take Wisconsin today. I believe we agreed on that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Minnesota's going to take Wisconsin, beat them in the Big Ten championship.
Closer than the experts think.
I will agree with that. I think they're both good. Clemson's going to beat UVA. Shout out to UVA, though, because they are the 7th different ACC Coastal team to make it to the championship.
Which is really fun.
It is.
A different team every year, minus Clemson.
And then here's my 4. This is going to shock a lot of people. I think Oklahoma is going to be the 4, and I'm going to tell you why. I think Utah is going to go down in the Pac-12 championship. I think Bama is going to lose today, and I also think UGA is going to lose today. And I think Oklahoma is going to beat. I don't know who exactly they're playing in the Big 12 championship. I believe it's going to be Baylor.
It's going to have to be a rematch against Baylor.
It's going to be a rematch against Baylor. I think they win that one, and I think they jump all the way up to number 4. But that is our little segment here. We broke down, we gave you our impact players, our picks, and the implications that we have for the college football playoff. Harrison, thank you for being on.
Thank you for
throwing it back out to Andy.
Alabama, the Iron Bowl. Kennedy, what are your predictions for tonight's game?
Yeah, so Auburn is 6-0 when they're ranked in the top 25 at home when they're playing against Alabama. So I definitely think that Auburn is going to win this game. I think the score is going to be 24-14. But I think the key here is that Auburn's offense has got to stay consistent. They can't have a late start like they have been having for a couple of last games, especially with playing against Georgia, kind of slacking off in the first half and then in the second half kind of getting that momentum up. They're going to have to be consistent. Even though Tua Tagovailoa is out, they're also going to have to remember Alabama's offense is still going to be a good team, and they're still going to have to play hard against them.
My prediction for this game is going to be a 23-20 Auburn. Like Kennedy said, Auburn's offense does start out slow in these big games, whether it be Florida, LSU, or Georgia. If they look to win this game, they need points and need points early, with my final score being 23-20 Auburn. Delaney and Andy, back to you in the studio.
Let's go into players to watch. So Delaney,
we did 3 segments.
Actually,
this is the 3rd one right here.
And they're Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, both key defensive players this entire season. Like I mentioned earlier, have multiple awards between the 2. I think that they know about Mac Jones's inexperience, and they're really going to be looking for those sacks and to force those fumbles in order to really give Auburn an edge today.
For sure. And on the other side of the ball, to stop Najee Harris, who is my player to watch. And Najee is, like he says, coming up on a 1,000-yard season pretty soon. He could do it in this game or maybe in their bowl game. But yeah, Najee is a big, effective player for Alabama. I think he'll need to play his best game if they're going to win, because he's going to have to make plays on the offensive side of the ball. So now, with into our predictions, Delaney, what is your prediction for this game?
My prediction is 24-10 Alabama. I think that just because they do have Matt as the less experienced quarterback in this game, they do have so many offensive weapons, so they will beat the Auburn Tigers, but I believe that the Tigers defense will keep the game pretty low scoring.
Yeah, I have Alabama 27-24. I think, like you said, it will be a close game. Auburn will test Alabama, but unfortunately for the Tigers, it's not going to be enough, as I think Alabama will make a few plays with their receivers and Najee Harris, like we talked about, to win the game. So I think Alabama will come out victorious. Well, that's going to do it for this Iron Bowl preview show. Thank you for watching, and thank you to all of our guests on this show. Thank you, and have a great Iron Bowl Saturday.
We need to go meet the guys. I'm lit. Can you drive?
Pool party at Jesse's. Can you drive? Will you drive? I'm a little toasty.
Nope. Nope, I'm high. But I can order us a ride.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different.
Pool party at Jesse's. Can you drive? I'm toasted.
Nope, I'm high. But I can order us a ride.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different.
That the projections would be flood next Thursday.
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency.